Okay,
This,
recording
this,
started.
this is the City of East Cleveland Finance Committee meeting. Today is Tuesday, May 12th. The time is 6:35 p.m. Dr. Guy, could you call the roll?
Counselor Austin,
Present.
Counselor Stevenson,
Present.
Counselor Smith, absent at the moment. And we have our Law Director, Willa Hemmons, on the line. We have Finance Director, Charles Eahan.
Yep.
Of our Honorable Mayor King. And that's Mr. Smetley. He exited the room, but he was here.
Stepped out.
And we have our videographer just joining.
We want to give him a few minutes to set up.
I'm gonna just allow him to record on his end. Okay.
While we give him a few minutes.
I am recording on my end.
Okay. Let's go ahead and have the remarks of the public. Are there any remarks of the public? Having none, I do not. We can move to April 2020 financial report. I do not have anything to report. I saw Mr. EIN in the meeting here. Is he still here?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Is there anything in this portion of the meeting that you think that we need to know or that stands out that you need to tell us?
No, I think last time the council got together from the last Tuesday regular council meeting, the mayor had already mentioned the projected loss in revenue between $400,000 and $700,000. Still, every day is different as far as getting information. There's possibility of some money coming from, I believe, I think it's the federal government or the state. The mayor, he can correct me on that. We had a meeting. So there's talk about, obviously, with all the pandemic that's going on, how it's affecting all the municipalities' finances, that there may be a possibility to help the shortfall that not just East Cleveland but other municipalities will have in their resources. But that's just preliminary talk. We have a fiscal commission meeting next Thursday at 1 p.m. It'll be a video conference meeting, and so I'll be working on from now to before then a projected new 5-year forecast with just those projections that I mentioned of 400 to 700,000 in reductions, and just seeing how that looks like. And obviously the fiscal commission is very interested in seeing, how the city is projecting or looking to react to the potential loss of resources. But I'm working on that, and I will advise council to participate or come to that fiscal commission meeting next Thursday.
Okay. Dr. Guy, did we forget to look at the minutes on this agenda?
No, no.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear
Dr.
me?
Guy?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Did we forget to look at the minutes on this agenda?
No. No, they just go on the next agenda review.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure. All right, then after, Charles, we'll move on to legislation. Dr. Guy?
Okay, we have ordinance number 08-20, an ordinance amending section 351.18C of the East Cleveland Codified Ordinances by adding section 351.18C1 to include certain streets as well as the Forest Hills Park grass areas and the city-owned parking lot to the city's on-street parking sticker program during the Shaw High School all-class reunion event requested by the mayor, sponsored by Ernest L. Smith, council president. This one was left in committee for further discussion. I think we might have Counselor Smith joining now.
Is there any discussion on ordinance 08-20?
Yes, Madam Vice President. I received a map this past week. I met with the mayor and we talked about it. We shared some different perspectives on the areas that would actually be parked on. And what I asked him to do is take a look at the parking in Forest Hills Park.
Somebody please mute their phone.
Yes, and like I said, I asked him to consult the person that's maintaining the park right now so that he can kind of come online and take a look at the grass as it is right now. And if cars were parked on it, I want him to be able to say that, hey, we can make the park whole again in the event that some traffic was on it. Even discuss potentially overseeding that area in advance so that it can be a little bit more tolerant of a vehicle driving on that grass. He also said he reached out to the chairperson of the Shaw reunion, all-class reunion, and they said they wouldn't really have a problem, allowing the city to charge for parking in those areas. So I think it was like 60 or 53 parking spaces, in addition to the areas that are on the street. So the area that we discussed along the tennis court would be almost like VIP parking. So more to follow, and I did ask him to actually get some, agreement in writing from the person taking care of the park as well as the Shaw High School reunion folks, so that we can actually have something that we can actually fold up and put into a supporting document file saying, hey, this was coming, and hey, the park guy, you said the grass can stand up to this, and if it doesn't, then, with great respect and appreciation for what he does, we can actually ask him to, hey, fix it. And this is an opportunity to, I don't want to say a test opportunity. And like I said, we did talk about it. And I did see the map and ask them, hey, what guarantees, or not necessarily guarantees, but what can you put in place to say that these folks know they're going to be charged, and what we got to do to make the park whole if this thing was to go forward. So, Madam Vice President, that's all I have. And the mayor may have something to add.
Mayor?
Yes, thank you, Council Vice President. So, looking at this ordinance 0820, we need to sit back down with my team and have the language in this reworded. So what we are interested in doing is being able to charge at events, not just at Forest Hill Park, but for an example, at Patterson Park, if an event came near that we would deem that we needed to charge for off-street parking. So we used the all-class reunion as an example of where we could facilitate this. The map that I gave to Councilman Austin showed that there are maybe 30 to 50, 40 to 60 spots on an asphalt. And then there's probably twice that behind the tennis courts where it drops down some. And again, if it rained and the grass was soggy, we wouldn't use that. We wouldn't deem that able to park on. But certainly the asphalt is there and would allow us that. Now the park is closed off right there, so it would be an easy thing to do. We are not interested in charging residents to park on those side streets, Brewster, Fenimore, Cleveland. We are not interested in charging them to park on the street, only in the park. And I guess you could call it like VIP parking. So we would need to rework this a little bit and definitely take the Shaw High all-class piece out.
The last ordinance said you wanted to charge.
And yes, I've already talked to the Forest Hill Park Association, who's been managing this park since before I was on council. I know we gave them some equipment, but they've been managing the park. And he said, yeah, it's no problem. People park on the grass all the time. They can fix it if it gets damaged. We're not even saying that it will get damaged, but if it gets damaged, that's what Gordon Hay, that's what they do. They can fix it. And since I've been the mayor, I've been talking to the Shaw Alumni Association about doing this exact thing. It's just taking some time to get it to where it's at in front of you now. So I think we've been at this maybe 8 months. We've been at this, so we're ready to actually move on this. And we'll make note, there's no all-class reunion this year. Do you have any other questions of me on this? Hello?
Madam Vice President, I know that
Hearing, you all don't have any questions?
Yes, I really have a question. Councilwoman Gowdy is on. I wanted to know what changed your mind. You already had named those streets before, and what changed your mind that they're not getting charged now?
So unfortunately, Council, I did not name those streets. When I read this document, it says here, it is council's understanding. I'm not sure where council got that understanding, but it was never our intention to charge people to park on the public streets. I'm not sure where that came from.
It was Ernest Smith, President Ernest Smith. And Kareem supported that on the streets. Vice President.
No, I didn't. I've never supported this. You can look at the
Well, you
minutes from the
sponsored
last
it.
meeting.
Well,
and the minutes.
well, you sponsored it. You did sponsor it.
No, I did not.
That's
I
what it
didn't.
said on the last ordinance.
Look at the
Okay.
agenda.
Yeah,
Look at the agenda.
the last one said that you sponsored it.
That was wrong. I never
Oh, okay,
sponsored it.
okay.
I never
What it
sponsored
says.
it.
That's what it
And
says.
I think this is the third time we've seen it. I don't agree with it at all.
Well, I'm sorry, but that's what it was said on the agenda. You sponsored it.
So I'm sorry for any confusion that may have come from the administration. Just so that we're clear, there will be no charging to park on city streets. The intent of this is for basically off-street parking, and I guess you could deem it, like Councilman Austin said, VIP parking, and it would be off-street parking.
So what is you trying to charge them? Do we have a booth or some kind of study of what we're gonna do? How is you going to charge people? Is there gonna be we just need to know how you gonna do it.
I believe you're asking me.
Credit card.
I believe you're asking me a logistics question or a monetary question. And either way, it's no problem. We can charge credit card, we can charge cash. That, that can be determined. I don't have an issue either way.
Well, the credit card is more traceable of how much money we have. So I'm just trying to keep track of the money.
Sure, I have no problem with that.
There's a finite number of spots.
Again, I'm glad the chief of staff brought that up. There's a finite number of spots. So it's not like this thing is gonna have all of these cars. Again, in the asphalt, they're between 40 to 60, and then on the grass down low, you're looking at maybe 100 spots down there. So let's say you got 160 spots at $10 a spot. There's your number.
Okay, because I know what the auditor has said, in the past, that we is not following what they've been putting out.
The auditors, repeat that, please, Ms. Gowdy.
I said the auditor report saying that the last council have to start following the rules and following the money. Did you read the last auditor report?
Yeah. Any other questions?
Because he was really saying council really didn't know what they was doing.
I don't remember that.
They don't know where the money been going.
I don't remember that. That doesn't sound accurate and or fair to the administration or to council or to the Fiscal Oversight Commission.
They audit our.
If you're ready to
Yeah,
move on, I'm ready to move on.
Our books are audited to the penny every month, so I'm not sure where that statement came from that was just made. I'm sorry.
And the auditor report, 2018. You got that report because I still got it.
That's simply not true.
Okay.
If we have nothing else, we'll
I'll put it in the newspaper and just show you.
if we have nothing else, we're gonna move on. Dr. Guy,
Council Vice, did we decide we're gonna leave this in committee, or did we decide we're gonna move it out, or?
well, the mayor says that they're gonna rework it.
Okay,
So,
They'll just stay in committee at this point.
State committee.
yeah,
It can stay in committee. That's fine.
We got time.
We got time. Like I said, there's no all class this year. However, we would like to get this done this year, so we'll be back. We'll be back with this.
So Mayor, did you want to withdraw this one and it'd be a new piece of legislation?
No, you can leave it. We'll just rework it. We'll keep the same number and we'll just bring it back to you. Little touched up.
All right, okay.
If that's okay with council.
that's fine.
Great.
Okay, this next one is American Legal Publishing, ordinance number 12-20. An ordinance enacting and adopting the second supplement to the Code of Ordinances to the City of East Cleveland and declaring an emergency, requested by Ernest L. Smith, Council President, and sponsored by Council as a whole. So this is the second set of supplement papers to replace in your blue books, your blue code books. So last year, Council passed where the American Legal would update it on a quarterly basis. So each time those supplements or the ordinances are sent quarterly and updated, council would need to pass legislation for it, basically. So each department did receive their set of supplements to replace in their books last week.
I support.
Are we gonna, is there any discussion on this?
We received some information this past week about the additional requirement for the more frequent
We can't
addition.
hear you, Councilman Austin.
We added additional, we discussed earlier I think it was the last meeting, some offsite discussion about a more frequent update to keep our information more current. And this is the financial responsibility that the city will have to do so. So I support, and I think we should go ahead and move this forward. So we kind of, now we starting to get our ordinance and all our documents updated. We make the conscious effort and the investment to keep it updated.
So I did send the invoicing, which would be the supporting documentation. The one Willa sent weeks with the legislation, that was from last year. So this, it actually is a little less than what last year's was. So it really depends on the number of pages that have to be updated. So I think it was like $260, something like that, so.
Cool.
Anything else? Any questions? Having none, we'll move forward.
Cool.
We need to move, yeah, we need to move this to the agenda.
Okay.
Cool.
What are we doing with the, Dr. Guy, what are we doing with the next?
So it's up to you if you want to add it from the floor. I did get the Willa did send the legislation, but for
What do we
some,
need to do? Do we need to?
you need to waive the 24-hour rule.
And
Yes.
If it's on the agenda, can't we just talk about it, not necessarily bring up the, I read the legislation for the additional 5 parking lots out there behind City Hall. Based on what the mayor had verbally agreed on, I don't know if that was necessary to, you know, earmark 5 parking spaces and the $500 penalty for parking there, which is more than a handicap parking. I think that's just allowing the enforcement an opportunity to actually work, because before it wasn't enforced, because for me, I just walk from wherever. But I understand the requirement that we at least have the signs that are already posted as a requirement enforced. So if it would please the rest of the council, let's see if the enforcement mechanism that's already in place works, or was it just an effort to move the spaces from the end of the parking lot closer to the building? Just so I'm clear.
well, Mr. Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you. I'll defer to the Chief of Staff. He wanted to comment.
So I had extensive discussion with the council president. The 5 spaces that you currently have, what we will do is make them illegal to park in 24 hours a day. So this council has been more active coming to city halls more than any other councils in the past. That's why I said after 5 o'clock, then people should move out. You guys come to City Hall more often than any other council that I'm aware of, and I've been here for 10 years. So what we're going to do is have your spots, have them non-parking for anyone else, probably until after 8 p.m. So the 5 spots that you currently have will make sure that no one parks in your spot. And if they do, it will be treated like illegal parking. They will get a parking ticket. If they continue to do so, they'll be towed. And we'll make all of City Hall employees aware of the restrictions on those spots. They will be treated like any other illegally parked car.
Can I jump in for a second?
Yes, please.
And obviously, as I got, one of my staff members. So have we looked at the parking situation as a whole? Because obviously, as you mentioned, Chief of Staff, we have employees who park there. So council doesn't want anybody parking there throughout the whole day.
So Charles, this is what the mayor's office agreed to with the council president. No parking in those parking spaces until 8 p.m. by anyone other than city council. Across the street from City Hall, the front part of O'Reilly's is parking for City Hall. So people can park in the back parking lot and they can park across the street. Those spots will be set for council up to 8 p.m. If 8 p.m. is to your liking, Council Vice President, if that's to you and your council colleagues, if 8 p.m. is good enough, then 8 p.m. it will be. If 8 p.m. isn't good enough, you give us a time. If there is no time that you want to give us, those 5 spots belong to you and we will enforce it as if they belong to you. And you tell us how you want it enforced. That's not rhetorical. So if someone has a different opinion on how we should enforce it, you tell us how you want it enforced. Whether if there's a time of day restriction, if there's a weekend restriction, whatever you need to ensure that when you come to City Hall, you have a spot to park in, we're going to make sure that those spots are available at the times you deem necessary.
Mr. Mayor and Chief of Staff, I respect where you're coming from, but I have a safety concern here. As I go through Cuyahoga County, the parking lot at the rear of the City Hall for the City of East Cleveland is the darkest parking lot that I have seen in the county. Every other parking lot, when you walk out into that area, looks like it's daylight. That is not the case in this City Hall. That is why we are asking for the parking spaces to be moved, because we are at City Hall at night. Staff is not at City Hall at night. So we have some safety concerns of parking at the end of the parking lot at night or even during the day. I mean, there's times when we just need to get in the building so we can get out. And we are pushed to the end of the parking lot, and it makes it difficult for us to maneuver and do what we have to do. The legislation is clear as far as the time being set. My problem with parking, and I think you reference across the street or something like that. My problem with parking in those places is it's dark over there. That whole area over there is pitch black. And coming out the building at night, the only light that you have there is the light shining out from the office, from the doorway of the hallway. So that's my take on it.
Council Vice President, if you'll indulge me, it sounds like we have a lighting issue. But even still, there are parking spaces that are towards the front, not right behind the road that you're currently in, and you see police vehicles parked there. What we'll do is have the police vehicles move into your spot and you move into the police vehicles, and those are spots right behind the law director's spot.
Hello, you keep fading out.
I'm sorry?
You faded out.
I'm sorry. So it sounds like we have a lighting issue, which we need to address. Nonetheless, we'll move the first 5 police cars to where you currently are and move you to where those first 5 police cars are. It's in the same, it's close to the front door, right behind the law director's spot. So you'll get moved up to the front. We'll move those police cars to your existing parking spaces, and we'll address the lighting as well. So, and you're right, if it's dark back there, we need to address that. So we'll look into the lighting, see if we can address the lighting, but we'll move your spot nonetheless. So you'll be up front.
You're saying you're going to move us across, say, from where the back of that building is?
From Willis, right behind Willis.
It's the one right behind the, right across from where the wall is, but in the front, near close to the mayor and the.
Okay, all right, that'll work. That'll work. If I think we're getting a drawing demonstration here.
So I tell you what, why don't we have Council President, Council Vice President come in and we'll show you the parking spots that we're looking at and swapping out to make sure that they're amenable to your liking. But we'll look at fixing the lights in the parking lot. I think that's part of the issue with parking out there. So we'll look at doing that and we'll show you the spots to see if moving the spots solves your
Now,
issue.
which spots are we going to be looking at?
So there's spots that he just drew me a mock-up map to show them to me. So I want you guys to see them so that we're all on the same page, right?
Okay.
Because I don't want you to think that I'm gonna move any of the judge spots or I'm gonna move any of the key employee spots. So what I'd like you to keep in mind that per the charter, council's part-time, I have full-time employees. I need to get them in and out of the building. There are times when we leave here and it is dark on a regular basis as employees. So council, and we're glad that you guys are more active and you're here more than past classes of council. But at the same time, I need the employees to have that same comfort level that you're speaking of. Close to the door, not having to walk in the dark. So we need to get the lighting addressed first and foremost.
But if you see these spots, I think you're gonna like
Yeah, you may like these spots. These spots are okay, and I think you will like them, but let's show them to you before we agree on it and we make the move to do it.
Now, where does the clerk, where do I park? Do I just fill in where nobody's there? Or what if all five are there? Where do I park?
So here's the thing. You guys got to kind of work with us. We got X amount of employees. We got X amount of spots. We got X amount of cars. There simply is not enough room to give you 6 designated police spots or designated council spots. Y'all got to work with me. Council is a part-time job. I don't suppose all 6 or all 5 of you will be here at a given time, right? So maybe if we looked at 2 designated, they can't park in at any time, and then we leave 3 that they park in after 5, we come up with some kind of arrangement so that everybody's satisfied, right? Because what will happen if we designate 5, 6 spots to council, then I got the employees parking on the other side of the street. They got to walk across Euclid in the snow, right? They got to do it on a regular basis. And they're full-time employees, right?
Well, I did that for 27 years.
I normally park in the front, so, but during the meeting times,
Just come in and
I guess,
Yeah, let's just look at the spots, and then we'll have a better understanding, and then we can continue this conversation. I think that's probably the best way to do it.
Miss
Hey,
Gowdy,
Brandon,
do
didn't
you
you
have something to say?
Brandon,
Miss
didn't
Gowdy?
you sell all the scrap cars so we can have room for the parking lot?
Mayor, Miss
Mr.
Gowdy's
Mayor?
asking you a question.
I'm sorry, did she say Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
Yes. So we got rid of a number of scrap cars that were on the lot. But if you go back there, and thanks to council, we were able to purchase more police cars. Thanks to council, we passed legislation getting tougher on dumping. So we acquired more police or more cars for the city. So we have a number of cars back there, right? However, with the number of police cars, with the number of employees, fire, right? There simply aren't enough spaces to get you 3 paces from the door, right? So we can't get you that close to the door. Understand what it is you want, but let's see if we can get you the light. It's lighter now, it stays light a lot longer. Maybe that'll help. We'll show you these other spots. They're closer to the door, I think, but I don't think they're quite where you'd want them. But let's take a look at them so that we can make sure. Again, the chief of staff says he's pretty sure you're gonna like them, but I don't want you to come and think I'm moving the judge or any of the court spots to then make them part-time council spots, but full-time, no parking. I'm just trying to be fair. I'm just trying to be fair and rational.
Where does the
As we
judge,
look at
I
this.
don't even know where they park, where the judge parks at. Where do they park at?
So you have to come in and take a look
So why don't we just schedule some time?
tomorrow.
We
We
can-
can show Dr. Guy.
Yeah, we can show you tomorrow, and then that way, we can begin hammering this out. If you guys want to move, we can move you. If you simply want light, we'll get you light. We'll accommodate you, no problem.
The
Yeah,
judge
'cause
has a space over from the mayor.
I
Okay,
definitely
what
don't
now?
want to,
I said
I
he's
definitely,
space over from the mayor. The mayor's right by the door, and then the judge is a couple of spaces over from him,
Okay,
right next to him, I think.
but then
I
there's the
definitely don't want the
row.
police officers to be running down the parking lot to get to their cars. So we got to balance it out.
Who's on the iPad?
I am.
Oh, okay. I'm
Council-
like,
Yeah.
iPad.
Council Vice President,
Yeah. Yeah.
Council Vice President,
Yes,
we understand your safety concerns, and if you allow me to show you, I think you'll be pretty satisfied. If you allow me to show you.
okay.
It's hard to
so-
describe it right in here. I wish I could go take a picture and upload it, but it's just not possible for me to do it.
So you said tomorrow. What time is good for you all tomorrow?
We'll be here at 10 a.m. And then we'll be at the MLK at 11.
Okay, so,
If you can call me offline, I can take a picture and email it and text it to you if necessary, so you can see it
Okay.
tonight.
okay, that'll work.
I don't know if you want to give your phone number out over Zoom.
No, you got my number, right?
Do I?
Yeah, you got my number.
Let me see.
Just take a picture and send it to me.
Let me see if I got your number. I didn't. I'm about to go take a picture of it right now.
All right. Okay. So what's your pleasure, ladies and gentlemen? Do we want to push this out of committee with the upcoming changes? Do we want to leave it in committee? What are we doing?
Well, I just want to thank you for bringing it to their attention because we do need light in the parking lot. Thank you, Kareem. Vice President.
Madam Vice
Mr.
President,
Austin?
I think we give I don't know if the legislation is still necessary. I think we give the administration the opportunity to put some lights in the parking lot and see if the relocation of those specific slots are effective.
Counselor Austin,
Yes.
so the legislation is necessary because the language was incomplete when the American legal folks, did what they did. So notice that the language was incomplete. So you do need to complete the language.
I thought we were talking about
Excuse me. It was in 2012, 51-12. And what happened was through some kind of clerical oversight, all of the language, which is already in the legislation, was left out. So all we have to do is to contact American Legal Zoom. I don't think have to re-legislate 8-year-old legislation and just tell them to put it, that this is the complete, it was left off. And please insert the complete portions that were omitted into the next legislation.
Well, excuse me, Madam Law Director. I thought we'd already agreed to move 12-20 onto the next agenda review. I thought we're on to miscellaneous council parking areas.
Yeah,
No, this is 51. This is 51-12.
Okay, I don't
We're
see
talking
that.
about 2012 was the original parking legislation for council, and American Legal didn't print the entire legislative piece. So if we just send it to them along with all the other updates and say, please just, the missing portion, just correct that.
Okay.
Okay, well then I'll get with you then, Willa, because I don't know if the copy that was in my file is a completed one then. I'll see if you have.
Is it, yeah, the 51-12, the one you sent me?
No, I didn't send you 51-12.
Yeah,
Send
that's,
it to us.
oh, okay. Yeah, I had it in my files and I thought you guys had it as well.
No, because it must have been incomplete in my file because I sent all the ordinances to American Legal last year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, what I sent you then had all the language.
Okay,
So,
so I'll get that. Yeah.
okay.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah, my laptop was making too much noise, so I went to my iPad.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Smedley has sent me the area where he's talking about the first 5 spaces adjacent northern wall area. It would be 1 row over from the wall, and it would be the first 5 spaces under the light pole, which I could probably send this to Dr. Gunn. And she might be able to look. Dr. Guy, if I send you this, can you upload it?
You send it to me on email.
Let me see if I can send it at all.
Yeah, I don't know because I'm on my other computer. It doesn't have.
But based on what I'm looking at, this is sufficient, Mr. Smedley.
Yeah. Thank you, Council Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. Smedley.
So I think what we need to do then is change the legislation to identify the parking spots, the area, because the legislation is specific to the north retaining wall, and that where we would be parking, that does not apply anymore. So there are some changes that would need to be made here to bring us into compliance. And then the changes on page 2 would also still remain in effect. Any other?
Without, Council Vice President, if you'll indulge me.
Go ahead.
And I just simply want to say this so that, not to antagonize, I know that there's been passed legislation on parking. It was never enforced because you can't legislate a parking space. The grounds is part of the mayor's purview. Council, maybe 3 council classes ago tried to pass the piece of legislation, and it was never enforceable and it was never enforced. And the mayor at the time accommodated their request, but put the stipulation of after 5 p.m. What they originally wanted was their 5 spots to be 24 hours. And when the law director at the time ruled that you can't legislate a parking space, so the mayor accommodated that class of council, gave them a space, but gave it to them after 5. I just wanted to put that on the record so that everybody understands how that piece of legislation and why it was never enforced.
Also, I was just, may I, Madam Vice President, this is
Go ahead.
Willa.
Go ahead.
I think that we should possibly also speak to the police department to see if logistically there's some kind of constraints that they might have in terms of having to get to every place in the city within 3 minutes if they're down at the end of the parking lot. Well, they're young. I guess they can run on down.
So hold on. What I'd like council to think about as we move forward with this, and we will accommodate you, I'd like council to seriously think about what is the likelihood that all 5 of you will be here during the day at the same time, and there isn't a meeting, a council meeting. So maybe we think about 2 spaces there and the other 3 back where they are. I'm just throwing that out there so we can keep throwing this against the wall to come up with something so that everybody's comfortable with. If we're talking about prime parking spaces and we have 5 of them that don't have much use during the day, maybe 1 or 2 of them do, that may be a better mix and work for the betterment of everybody. I just want council to think about that.
Well, go ahead, Ms. Gowdy.
Are we making any plans to resurface the parking lot? Because the police cars is getting tore up and the cars that we be riding in and driving is getting tore up. So that's something that I'm, need to talk about too.
It's currently not on the agenda, so we were only focusing on agenda items.
I'm not sure what she was asking that too.
She's asking about resurfacing of the parking lot.
So resurfacing of the parking lot, it's currently not on the agenda, and it's not something that we were really prepared to talk about. If that is something you want to talk about, we can talk about that, preferably at a later date.
So we can come back with some research.
Yeah, so that we can more fully look at it and understand what it is that needs to be done back there. We are aware of the challenges of navigating the parking lot. I would ask and advise that everyone take their time through that parking lot so you don't damage your car.
But it's missing. I mean, if you're talking about the parking area, it's still dealing with the parking lot and the lighting and all that. So,
Okay.
the lighting wasn't even on the agenda. So this is why I'm just bringing that to your attention too.
Okay, we have on the floor the 5 o'clock restriction for parking. And I kind of like the fact, Mayor, if we, during the day, would have 3 spaces available. I kind of like that because then 3 of us, there's no more room for us. Only 3 of us can fit in the office at a time. So I kind of like that idea. Keep 3 spaces open during the day. Then we have the additional 2 spaces that are open to at least 8 o'clock at night, because that's the time that our meetings end usually. If we can make those changes. Dr. Gotti, are you getting this? 3 open spaces during the day in the new location, and 2 that would be closed. I'm not trying to beat up on the staff for their little money they making. So I'm not really too much worried about the enforcement piece of it. I just want to be safe coming and going.
Okay.
And I want everybody else to be safe coming and going.
Understood.
So we will make the changes. And ask the mayor to ingratiate us with 8 o'clock p.m. parking and signs that specify that.
And you're moving the legislation forward, right?
Yes. What's your pleasure, Mr. Austin?
No, I'm a real simple guy. As far as like parking for me, I walk where I just park where I got to park and keep it moving. I'm gonna do that as long as I can, because it may become a time when, you know, I get older and I just can't do it.
Exactly.
But while I can, I just park wherever, climb up the wall. Parking is not an issue for me at all. So this would be a you know, not necessary in my opinion, but I respect the fact that there's other folks on council that may not be as mobile as I, and or, you know, imposing for somebody to step out of the dark in the parking lot and see all those police cars out there and try to assault me. So yeah, I think that there are some other ways around it, but I support the legislation to move forward. But I do think that giving the mayor and the administration an opportunity to provide a solution that would work would be better than having a, you know, attempt to legislate where there's no need. So again, I support moving forward in this case, but you know, I'm probably not the best proponent because I just walk and go do what I got to do. Thank you, Madam Vice President.
Thank you. So yeah, Dr. Guy, we're going to move it forward and move on down this agenda to remarks and requests of the public, 3 minutes. Mr. Anderson.
Madam Vice President, I thank you for the opportunity to speak, but I respectfully will decline today. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other public on the line? Response to council and the mayor to remarks to the public. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Council Vice President. So just like to bring council, make council aware today, we did the 4th package groceries and delivered it out to the residents. I can't thank enough one of our great partners, and that is Swage Lock. They donated a lot of canned goods and other foods. I mean, they bought foods that they buy for themselves to eat so that we could then distribute them to the residents. And the residents really responded with thank you, thank you, thank you for the feeding and the food we gave them. Tomorrow we will finish up as we did maybe 70, 75% of the food today. So we do the other 25% tomorrow. Also, Thursday, we'll be doing the second COVID testing over at the MLK from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. with our partner, Genesis Research Laboratories. Again, that's this Thursday at the MLK. We'll be testing. If you have an East Cleveland resident, a family member, ask them to please bring a state ID, driver's license, and their insurance card. And they come down and get testing. That concludes my report for this finance committee, or my remarks, unless there's any questions or concerns of me. And thank you all for us, you know, negotiating there and getting those parking spaces thing. I think this will work out well as we move forward. Thanks.
Councilor Austin.
Yes, Madam Vice President. Thank you for all the stuff you do to kind of keep us in check and online and focused and driven. I do appreciate it. And to our residents, continue to remain vigilant and take care of your neighbor when you get an opportunity. Share what you have if you're in a position of, you know, if you have the ability to share that, whether it's your time or resources, or, you know, give a neighbor some food or an extra mask if you have it. A lady told me how she started making masks for the community right across the street over here. And I said, I didn't get a mask. She said she seen me with my mask. She didn't think I needed one, but I want a cool mask too. If you have the capacity to help your neighbor, do so. Mayor, thank you very much for, you know, taking a small bit of information and making an absolute phenomenal outcome by feeding the residents of this great city. We appreciate you. We don't want to understate your efforts in doing so. To you and your team, thumbs up.
Thank you.
Residents
Thank you for coming out today as well.
Yeah, amen. Residents continue to take care of one another, and may we all be blessed. And Madam Vice President, that's all I have.
Counselor Gowdy,
I want to thank you for the changes. that's
Counselor
gonna be-
Gowdy,
Yes, I'm here. I want to thank you, Vice President, for the changes that's going to be made for the parking lot, because we do need lights. As a woman, it's dark out there, and we definitely need light for all the residents also. So I want to thank you also for the things that you have been doing in the past. Keep up the good work and stay safe. And everybody just stay safe, and that's it for me.
Mayor King.
I'm still here.
I got one other thing. I have, if you all could put together something to let us know who's cutting grass. I'm getting calls for grass cutting now. I have no idea who's cutting grass, when and where. So if we could open up the communication on the grass cutting so that I know what to tell people. Because
Okay, Council Vice President, I'm glad the Chief of Staff here. He handles the grass cutting. What I will tell you is that it does get complicated because the contractors have assigned grass, then there are tons of grass that are under the county to cut. And then there are tons of grass that are under the city. So I don't know who's supposed to be cutting, but the Chief of Staff is here. Maybe you can take that.
If you'll indulge me, Council Vice President, what I will do is get you a list of the county land bank. I'll send it to you, Dr. Guy, so you can disseminate it. A list of the county land bank property that they cut. And then I'll send you the contractors and the lots that they're responsible for. So you'll know who is responsible for cutting what outside of what we're going to be cutting. We're hiring 2 seasonals just to do grass cutting to relieve the financial burden as much we can for grass cutting. So I'll put together a plan. And Council Vice President, if you could forgive me. So I have the pantry tomorrow and the testing on Thursday. So if you can give me till Monday, I can put together some coherent information that will allow you to understand what grass cutting will mean this season in East Cleveland.
okay, that'll be helpful. It'll help. I know it'll help me and Miss Gowdy because this will be our first round at this, and everybody else pretty much has been through this before. So if that's all we have, ladies and gentlemen, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the Finance Committee meeting at 7:33 p.m.
I second it. Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Have a good one.
Take care. Thank you.
See you, Dr. Guy.